What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to this episode of English Turks, where I review your favorite Turkish series with and without English subtitles. And today, I'm finally back. Finally found a show that I actually want to watch. I know I haven't been doing anything for the past year, but that's because there haven't been any shows that I wanted to watch. All the main players that I actually like haven't been out there doing much. It has been a year since I've done any reviews on any of the shows just because they don't even last that long, and it became like not worth it to start reviewing a show that would only last for like 7 episodes. But I did see a show coming out that I was like, oh, this might be a good one. And it's by the name of Omer. I don't know if you guys know this one. It's recently come out. It's aired its third episode. But in this podcast episode, I'm going to review episode 1 and kind of give you guys an overview of what the storyline is potentially about. Now, I wanted to just share a little bit about the cast. So this series is about a guy named Omer, and I guess he's at a point in his life where he has to take some next steps in his career, in his relationships, and we're going to be taken along for the ride. Now, the actor playing Omer, I've never seen him in anything before. If I have, I don't remember, but he is Selahattin Pasali. Hopefully I pronounced that right. I've never seen him in anything before. And then we have Barish Falain. I think that's how you say his name. He's playing his dad. Um, and I have seen him before. I really like his stuff. So I was like, oh, I got to watch it. I think when I saw him and then I saw the one playing his sister. Oh my gosh. How am I having brain farts right now? When I saw that he was in it, I was like, oh, okay, great. And also Gökçe, she plays Gamze. And I've seen her in other things before as well. Barış, Merve. Merve, who plays his sister, we all know who she is. I mean, she is just like an amazing actress. Like, she did her thing. What was the show she played in that we all just absolutely love? Uh, um, Musumlar Apartmani. Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that show. I wish it didn't change so much, but she played in that one. And I gotta let you know, man, Gulben was giving it to us, man. And so when I saw that she was in this, and I also saw that Badish was in this, I was like, oh boy, I have to watch this series and give it a chance. It did, you know, start off with some good like hype. A lot of people wanted to watch it. So I'm excited to get into this show. Now I've watched episode 1 and let's get right into it. Now we have Omer. It starts off where he's like in a dream. You could tell it's a dream because everything is in like slow motion. But the entire house looks like it's snowing, but there's also papers dropping from everywhere. So I was under the impression like there was like a bomb. Have you ever seen like those old shows where they have like the bomb goes off and then it's all the ash and everything from whatever exploded. It's just so much ash everywhere. And that's what it kind of looked like. He runs into his mom in the kitchen. She's saying she's cold. He's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to feed you. And he sees there's no food in the fridge. He sees there's no furniture. He sees nothing except for all this fallen snow. And he's basically crying out to his mother. He ends up waking up from the dream, realizes it's a dream. And that's when you realize, like, oh, his mom must not be alive anymore. He eventually gets up, helps, go speaks to his dad a little bit about dreaming of his mother. And then we're introduced in that moment to his dad. And then we're introduced to his grandmother. She's also played in a series that I've watched before. I'm trying to remember which one it is. Um, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I know I've seen her in another series before. So the grandma can't walk and needs to go to, help to do a lot of things. And then they go to the temple and they do their prayers. Obviously, his dad in this series holds a pretty high position in the temple. And so um, that is something that we have to pay attention to. And obviously, he does important things too. He sings. I can't remember what they call it, like mezzanine, something like that. And he's in charge of singing the religious songs, I guess, throughout the city. He does that. And so he basically does what he has to do at the temple. They go back home. And then he starts off his day. Eventually, we're introduced to Gamze, and she walks into his store needing help. And obviously, they have like a little moment when like all the stuff falls out of her purse, and then they're looking for the phone. They get a lot of close moments. Anyway, she explains to Omer, who is watching the store for his friend, that she needed to get into her parents' home, but for some reason something was wrong with the lock, which is kind of weird. Like, why would you just help the stranger break into an apartment? But he says he knows a lot of the places in the area, and his sister lives in the exact same building. So he ends up going there, helps her get into an apartment. They fall on top of each other, like, of course, classic Turkish start to a love story is when the female falls on top of the guy. And yeah, so that happens. He ends up leaving, but then he finds somebody else that needs help and helps them. And in the process of him finally leaving to actually get back to what he was doing, he sees that she's struggling to take suitcases out of her car. He helps her get the suitcases up into the apartment, and then he eventually leaves. Now, they have a lot of connections there. Like, she has a drawing on the wall, and he's like, impressed, or he's like, oh, I never knew who that drawing was of, but probably never even knew it was there. But anyway, they introduce themselves to each other, and then we follow Gamze a little bit. And Gamze um, has brought her son back to her hometown, to her mother's home, and is basically in the apartment waiting for her mother to come home. Now, back to Omer. His family, basically his grandmother and his father, tell him like, hey, you need to, get a move on and get married because you're not that young anymore. You got to get things together. And Omer's not that interested in it. I mean, he feels like I think he's not in the position to be looking for a wife. He doesn't have a stable job, and like he's more concerned about figuring out what he wants to do with his life. But no, instead they're like, no, you have to come on, get it together. And so he ends up going out on a date with a girl, and they talk, and both of them are like, hey, we've never done this before. And then he tells her, she asks him about the notepad that she was drawing in, and he does pull it out and shows it to her, and she calls it a waste of time. Like, how can you go on a first date and call something that you obviously see that he took his time on and call it a waste of time? Once that happens, he realizes, oh my gosh, okay, this girl's probably not for me. And so then he does a little scare tactic by saying, hey, if we get married, we're gonna have to live with my father in the same house, and my grandmother can't use her legs, so you'll need to carry her to the bathroom, you need to give her baths, you need to feed her, make sure she takes her medicine, and basically like putting a lot of weight on this idea of marrying him. And so I guess that freaks her out because it would freak me out too. And she's like, well, how long is this gonna last? He's like, oh, for the rest of our lives, if God permits. And that freaks that girl out, which would freak me out too. And that was his way of getting out of that date, because obviously I'm sure she wanted something to work out, if anything. And then they go off where he goes off and he's with his dad, and I guess they take some of the boys that are, I guess, in their religious school, I guess, and they take them to the aquarium, and then the dad lets him know, like, hey, the religious teacher at the elementary school is not doing well, so I suggested you to take his place until he feels better. So Omer now has a job where he can work, and it just so happens that Gamze's son, Tuna, is actually in his religious class. Now, he doesn't know that that's Gamze's son, but, he realizes that the little boy likes to draw too, so that's where they actually really connect. It's with the drawings. And so he ends up going to, like, not the shore, but, like, to the
letting entities access to his mom. Running into each other's day. I guess obviously some fluxing there. There was a constitution, relationship, and a deep level relationship with alcohol. Now, eventually the dad realized that was what's going on with you, and obviously this is the sort of the call. The purpose of this was obviously going to be a huge issue between really confused his desire to be with this woman. And it's hard for him not to be attracted to her. Slapping him and you need to put your name and obviously this is really deep. Well, let's talk about the characters, okay? Initially, it's so interesting. This is the storyline. So I feel like to really to still and this thing behind the obviously the mom's a little bit resentful to the I'm not too sure of the circumstances of the divorce, but obviously they had the permission so she's putting him the thing is, he was like she just was like accept him. And she told me because I go to tell her mom like I love I think the most part for me was when she was sitting to the right of her and Mr. Ceremony and she was and yeah, so I saw the car and then I gave you somebody to go in my I was a big thing. What? I want to go to you got to cook them out and roughly almost like a quarter of it, and it's a little chance. Just the whole thing to get it. It's all the programs, that's all the things she said. Just don't like her, and the whole thing is this is all she is, because it's kind of like, well, she's just going to be yes, I think she is like that. I'm watching things that down for I know what she's going to be like on the end, but if I was in it, I really get her to be so like into the story with sister, she comes over to the house, because of the doesn't have to be anyway. So she takes it to her she can have connection. If you don't get this many times over the summer hours, so you guys have the money, you guys and the sister was like, oh, she's doing issues with access, so I guess this is a scam. So she's talking about it, and then I knew it was really, I could tell from, like, this is what I mean, and he was going to be not a good person. And that's all his behavior just was really like thus and some sort of watching him down, hitting my computer for the time and everything. So obviously I was so we decided to talk about Russia and then it was mainly what to do with the always want to know Russia. We had to go to and so she's like, okay, I decided to go to Russia. I just saw this and we got it. We figured out the way that she was doing something and we were coming back and we called her mother and talked and I was like, that man, I'm doing all